Hello, my name is Aviva, and today I wanted to share with you all of the books that I got for my birthday. So my birthday was on April 7th, and I was so kindly gifted so many books off of my Amazon wishlist. I can't even begin to thank everybody who did send something to me because you have no idea how happy it made me. So I am going to be going through all the books that were gifted to me, but then we also have to go through all of the books that I have gotten myself over the past couple of months. It has been a minute since I've done a book haul on my channel, so we do have to backtrack a little bit. And because I have been trying to read all of the books that I get right away. Like if something comes in the mail, I have been trying to put it aside and read it before anything else that I read so that it doesn't get stuck on my TBR for a while. So therefore there are a lot of books in this book haul that I have already read. So I'm going to try my hardest not to tell you guys what I thought about them in great detail because I either will be talking about it in my next recent reads video, or I have talked about it on my channel already what I thought about these books. So I'm just going to go through all of them. I'll tell you if I've read them, if I haven't read them, if they were gifted to me, if they weren't gifted to me, yada, yada, yada. I think you get the point. Let's get started because we do have a lot of books to go through. The first one I'm going to share with you is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. So this is actually the book that I had just recently read. I finished it the other night, and this was gifted to me by Mads Book Lover, who is one of my Instagram followers. So thank you so much to Mads for sending this to me. I know I already DM'd you and we talked about the book, but thank you again because I really appreciate it. So this is actually the second book from Mia Sosa that I've read. So she first had wrote The Worst Best Man, and now she just wrote The Wedding Crasher, which I believe it just came out. But anyway, this is a fake dating book. This girl, she crashes a wedding. She overhears the bride basically say that she's in love with another man. And so when the bride and groom are standing up at the aisle, this girl basically screams out and says I think you're making a mistake, don't do this sort of thing. And then a week later, this guy basically tells his bosses oh, don't worry, I'm not heartbroken. I could take on more work because I'm actually in love with the girl that crashed my wedding. So don't worry about me, because he really wanted this assignment. So he kind of he told a lie and now he has to get himself out of it. So he tracks down this girl that he says he was in love with, and then they end up fake dating. Very classic rom-com, very cute. I will talk about it more in my next recent reads video though. Next I got Forbidden by Carla Sorensen, and then Dear Aaron by Mariana Zapata. Both of these were gifted to me by Colleen. So thank you so much to Colleen for sending this to me. I already talked to you on Instagram, but thank you again because I actually read both of these already and I absolutely loved them. So Dear Aaron is actually the most recent Mariana Zapata book that I read. I wasn't sure if I wanted to read this because I knew the format of this book and I wasn't sure if it would, work for me, but it ended up being absolutely amazing. I shouldn't have expected anything less because I love every book that I've read by Mariana Zapata. But in this book, you're basically following this soldier who gets paired up with this girl that had she volunteered to write letters to soldiers when they're out in the army and if they need a buddy or something. So this girl basically writes letters to this guy for a while, a couple of months, and they become really close. And then when he gets out of the army, they're going to end up wanting to meet, and obviously they're going to fall in love through their letters, and then obviously even more when they meet and stuff like that. So the thing is that the first half of this book is 100% just letters back and forth between the two of them. And that's why I wasn't so sure if I was going to vibe with the format of the story, but I ended up absolutely loving it. I highly recommend reading it, but I will talk about it more in my next recent reads video. But I did get it. I loved it. I read it. Everything along those lines. It was amazing. And then I also got Forbidden, which was really, really good too. I think I did give this a 5 stars. I don't remember why I wouldn't have given it a 5 stars, but you're basically following this girl who is a manager at a gym, and happens to be the gym is just turning over ownership. And the guy that had bought the gym is actually this ex MMA fighter. He used to be a pro and he had retired, and he's a single dad. He's a widow because his wife died of cancer, and he's now buying the gym that she works at, that she's very attached to and everything like that. And happens to be she had a massive crush on him growing up. So she's very awkward around him right when he starts showing up. And it's just a very cute workplace environment, age gap, single dad sort of romance. And I loved it. This is the 4th book in a companion series, and I very much do want to go back and read the other ones because you're following a bunch of sisters, and I did see a lot of oh yeah, this person totally had a book and this person totally had a book. So I definitely have to go and backtrack now because I very much did love this. So I'm definitely planning to read more by this author. Next, I got the Coppersmith Farmhouse by Devney Perry and then the Fallen Crest series by Tijan. And these were both gifted to me by my father. So thank you to my father for sending this to me. I already texted you, but I'm going to thank you here again. Anyway, I actually already read this book. This was like a long shot for me. Like I've had mixed feelings with Devney Perry. I had originally read Indigo Ridge by her and I very much loved it. So then I read Juniper Hill by her and then I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then I decided to start backlogging her work, and I ended up, I wish I DNF'd the next book that I read by her. It was Steel King. So after that I was forget it. I don't think I want to read anything more by her. And then I decided to give her one last shot because she's a small town romance writer and I really do, I like that vibe at the moment. So I wanted to try this. This is a book about this girl who she inherits a farmhouse. So she ends up moving to this small town where the farmhouse is. And then she meets the sheriff who happens to be the person that was taking care of the farmhouse for the past 20 years. They don't start off on good terms, and then obviously a romance will happen between the two of them. But anyway, very unfortunately, I didn't like this book, but I'm not going to tell you why. We'll talk about it in a different video. But I read this and I didn't like it. And then also the Fallen Crest series I have not read yet, but this is a lot of books. This is 3 books, and this entire series is I think 7 or 8 books in total. So I don't know when I'm going to pick this up, but I have heard good things. A couple of people messaged me that they very much do like this series, and I have read other books by Tijan before, and I know that I like her writing, so hopefully I'll get to this soon and enjoy it, but we'll see. And while we're on the topic of books that my father had sent me, he also did send me the first 3 books in the Trial of Apollo series. So I actually already owned the 4th and the 5th book in this series, and he just sent me the rest of the series a while ago. They weren't for my birthday or anything, but like I said, I haven't made a book haul in a while. So, he did send these to me I don't even know when, but I've actually already read them. I finished the entire series. I read them via audio, and I'm very happy that I do own the physical copies because I very much did enjoy this series. I spoke about it in a recent reads video though. So I'll just make sure that my past 2 recent reads videos are linked down below because there are a bunch of books that, I've already, went into detail about. But I got these 3 too, and I read them and I liked them. Next, I got Insatiable and Irresistible by Melanie Harlow. So this is the first and the 3rd book in the series, or maybe this one's the first one, this one's the 3rd one. I'm not really too sure, but these were both sent to me by a girl named Mel, who I tried to get a hold of. I posted a story in my, on my Instagram channel to DM me if you see this, but I guess you didn't see it. So I'm just going to thank you here again so freaking much for sending both these to me because I very much wanted to read them ever since I read Ignite, which is the 6th book in this series. I'm oh my God, I gotta backtrack and read the other ones that I liked the synopsises of. So I'm so happy that you sent these to me because I'm very excited to read them. And you also had said in your letter that oh, you read Ignite and you loved it. And I'm very happy that you loved it too because I loved it, and I'm happy that I was able to share a rec with you that ended up working out. So thank you so much to Mel for sending both of these to me. Next, I got 5 Rounds by Nikki Castle, which was gifted to me by a girl named Kim. And I did try getting a hold of you on my Instagram stories, but I guess you didn't see it. So again, thank you so much for sending this to me. I am so freaking excited to read this. This was actually on my wish list for a very long time. I have heard a lot of good things, and I never got around to getting it. So hopefully I will read it soon. I don't know much about what it is other than probably the fact that one of them is a fighter or something like that, but I've heard good things. So hopefully I'll get to it soon. And the last person that specifically sent me books for my birthday was this guy named Matthew, who again, I tried to get a hold of you on my Instagram stories, but I guess you didn't see it. But he so freaking kindly sent me all 5 of these books, which I don't even know what to say. Thank you so freaking much. I wanted every single one of these, and I cannot wait to read them. I really can't thank you enough. I can't believe you sent me all of these books. You very much didn't have to, but I mean, I'm not going to say no. I'm excited to read all of them. So let's go through them one at a time. So first up, I got First Semester by QB Tyler. So I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and I think it's an age gap forbidden romance. I think the girl falls in love with her teacher in college. I don't really know, but I've heard good things, and I've wanted to try this author for a while. So we'll see how this goes. But if I end up liking it, I'm definitely going to start deep diving this author's work. So thank you for sending this to me. And then I also got Mr. Masters by T.L. Swan, which I believe is a nanny romance. I could be wrong about that, but I have read one book by T.L. Swan and I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but I'm down to read more of her work sort of stuff. So I've been wanting to read this one for a while. So again, thank you for sending this to me because I wouldn't have gotten this for myself anytime soon. Then also another book by T.L. Swan is the second book in the Miles High series, which is The Takeover. So I had first read The Stopover by T.L. Swan and I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I have heard that this is the best book in the series, and this is like people's favorite book by her. So obviously I'm excited to read this one. Hopefully I will enjoy it. I know that like in this series, you're just following like a bunch of brothers, and we had met this guy in the first book. So, I mean, I have read it a while ago, so I don't really remember the details of like, you know, the start of like what his romance is probably going to be about, but I'll figure it out when I pick this one up. Then I also got Darling Venom by Parker S. Huntington. So this is a book that I have wanted to read for a while because I've heard amazing things about it, but I've been very scared to pick it up because like there's a lot of trigger warnings in this book. You're following these people who have depression, who want to commit suicide, and like this girl ends up falling in love with like her best friend's brother, and the best friend had committed suicide, and that's kind of like what brings them together. And I know that people like cry so hard for this book, so I'm like a little bit scared to read it, but like there's gonna be a time where I'm just in the mood for a good cry, and that is when I'm gonna pick this up. So again, thank you for sending this to me, Matthew. And then the last book that he sent me is A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So I actually read a book called Waking Olivia by Elizabeth O'Rourke, which is going to be in this book haul very soon, and I very much loved it. So I was down to read more of her work, and then I randomly was like on Instagram and I saw somebody like mention this book about like how, oh my god, it's so underrated, it's so freaking good. And I very like, you know, blindly added it to my wish list. So I don't even know what it's about, but I'm definitely interested in reading it because I know that I already like this author's work. So I am excited to see what this one's going to be about. Hopefully I will read it soon. So then a while ago, like I don't remember how long ago this was sent to me, but I did receive The Damage by Tijan. So St. Martin Publishing so kindly sent this to me. I think it was like their romance part, like SMP romance, but basically they sent this to me. This is the second book in a series by Tijan. It's called the Insiders novel. So I think it's probably like the Insiders series or whatever. But anyway, this recently came out and I still have to go and get myself the first book in this series because I believe that you are following, you know, like one storyline, but I am very excited to own this and hopefully I will pick it up soon. So thank you to St. Martin Publishing for sending this to me. I also received this book called Her Broken Pieces by Rachel Leigh. So this is actually also a second book in a duet. So the first one was like Her Broken Heart, and I do own that book already, and I haven't picked it up because I wanted to like, you know, be able to binge both of them. So the author of this book, like Rachel Leigh, she actually like personally sent this to me, and I am very excited to now own it. So thank you so much for sending this book to me. I hopefully will read it very soon. So this is just like, you know, I think it's like a second chance romance sort of series. Like these two people, they very much knew each other when they were younger. I think they were in like foster care together. And then, you know, the girl kind of like left and went on her own. And the guy kind of like held a grudge for being left behind. And then it's like years later and they come back together and then you get to follow their like hate to love romance sort of thing. So very excited to read it. I have heard good things. So thank you again for sending this to me, Rachel Leigh. All right, so now for all the books that I had purchased myself. We are backtracking a while here because first up, I'm sharing with you Crescent City and A War of Two Queens, which both came out like over a month ago. This one, it came out in like the beginning of February. This one came out over a month ago, but I guess that just shows how long it has been since I made a book haul for you guys. So anyway, I have reviews on my channel for both of these books, so we're not going to talk about them. Very popular books by very popular authors. I'll make sure that my reviews for them are linked in the description below. I also got Drive Me Wild by Melanie Harlow, which is the first book in another one of her series. I forgot what it's called. I think like the Bellamy Creek series or something like that. But it's another like small town romance. It was a very cute story. It's actually the first book that I read in April. So I will be talking more about this in my next recent reads video. But it was just like, you know, a classic small town romance. This girl like, you know, comes in, she crashes her car. The mechanic of the town basically sees her crash, ends up, you know, helping her with her car, towing it, giving her a place to stay, giving her a job so that she could afford to pay for it all, and then like, you know, they end up falling in love. Very cute story, very much liked it, but we'll talk about this more in my next wrap up. But this is, you know, the second book that I read by this author, and it definitely means that I will be getting to, you know, the Insatiable and the Irresistible books very soon because I'm definitely down for more small town romances. And then the rest of the books that I'm going to share with you, I have read already. So like I said before, like I've been very good with like getting a book and reading it right away. So all of these books were mentioned in like, you know, my February and March wrap up. So I'm just going to run through them really quickly. But next Next up, I do have Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is like a marriage of convenience. You're following like a second brother as he has to like, get married and have a kid so that he could like inherit his fortune and like become CEO of his grandfather's company sort of stuff. Absolutely loved it. I believe I gave it a 5 stars. And then I also have Waking Olivia by Elizabeth O'Rourke, which is the first book that I had read by Elizabeth O'Rourke, which had made me want to get a deal with the devil, or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, this is a college sports romance book, and I absolutely loved it. I think I gave it like a 4.5. It was so close to being a 5 stars, but there was like something that bothered me in this book that it didn't make it. But this was, about this girl who has a very traumatic past, and a lot of it is suppressed. And I recommend looking up trigger warnings for it. But basically, she is a pro track, like a track person. Like she runs track for a college team, and she just transferred, and her new coach very much doesn't want to deal with her because like she has a lot of potential, but she just never actually comes through with it, and he doesn't understand why. But why she doesn't come through is because of all of like, her suppressed trauma. She ends up having nightmares that ends up making her run in her sleep. So she'll run like 10 miles in her sleep, and she doesn't even know that she's doing it. So by the time that she like wakes up and goes to track practice the next day, she's already like super winded and can't actually perform. So it's like this whole cycle. He ends up getting involved, and then, they obviously are going to end up having this forbidden romance because like it's a coach and he's not allowed to be this close to like a student and everything along those lines. So it was very good, very much liked it. If you are into forbidden sports romances, I recommend checking this one out. Next, I got Look the Part by Jewel E. Ann, which unfortunately I didn't like because there were some tropes in here that I didn't know when going into them, and I'm just not a huge fan of it. And then I also there was a bunch of stuff that I just didn't vibe with this book, but it is like a single dad romance. The guy is a widow. He's also a lawyer. He ends up renting the space above his office to this girl, and she ends up being like really loud. So he tries to like evict her, but he's also like really attracted to her. So it's like this hate to love sort of situation. And then there's some tropes in here that I wasn't a fan of that showed up later in the book. So unfortunately, I didn't like this book very much, but I did recently get it, so I had to add it into this book haul. And then I also recently got Come Back For Me by Corrine Michaels, which it kind of sucks that I didn't like this book because it has so much potential, but it personally just it didn't vibe with me. Like I just didn't connect to the romance so much because it was like a second chance romance, and I didn't realize how much of like a second chance vibe it would give off. These two people, they had like a one night stand 8 years ago, and they never forgot about each other. And then, obviously it's like 8 years in the future, and then they run into each other again, and they kind of get their second chance. And I don't know, I just didn't vibe so much with the story, like with the relationship specifically, but it was pretty, it was solid enough that like I'm not upset that I read it, but I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the series. This is the first book in the Arrowwood Brothers companion series. So yeah, that's that. I do recommend looking up trigger warnings for this book because there's like abuse and alcoholism and stuff along those lines in this book. But yeah, I got this one too, and I already read it. Then I also got Ignite by Melanie Harlow, which was the first book that I read by this author, which is the reason why that girl had sent me 2 more books by her. So I very much loved this book. This was a single dad romance who moves into this new house and ends up falling in love with the girl next door. It was so adorable. This one was kind of like one of those books that just like kickstarted me to get into the mood of like single dad and then small town romances. So I mean, I loved this, and I loved it so much that I haven't been able to get enough of these type of tropes ever since. And that is why there are so many books spread out in this book haul that like have this type of vibe going on. So loved it. Definitely recommend checking this one out. Oh, and also this guy's a firefighter, and he was really hot. I recommend this one. But anyway, I also got another small town romance, which is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. And unfortunately, I didn't love this book. It's a very thick book. I don't think it needed to be this long, but it's just about this girl who she has a twin sister, and she ends up going to help out her twin sister in this small town. And then the girl ends up stealing her car and leaving her with a niece that she never knew she had. And then she ends up getting stuck in this small town, and this guy comes in, starts helping her. He's going to be her new neighbor, her new boss, everything along those lines. Whatever. There was a lot going on in this book. Unfortunately, I didn't love it though. So yeah, that's that. If you want to know more, then watch my recent read video. And then the last book that I'm going to share with you is Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie Ann Cole. So this is actually the last book that I read in the month of March, and I liked it. It was an age gap romance, marriage of convenience, very cute story, thoroughly enjoyed. I think I gave this a 4 stars, and I think it very much deserved it. I liked the story. There were trigger warnings for a bunch of stuff. I recommend looking up the trigger warnings, but the biggest thing for this book was the girl had what is it, like an eating disorder, and basically like she ends up getting married to this guy so that she can use his insurance. And it was a very cute story. I very much liked it. But anyway, that is all of the books that I have to share with you today. That was a massive book haul, and there were so many good books in this haul, and there was also so many books that like I'm very excited to read. And I think that there weren't too many books that I didn't like. So overall, I think that was a good book haul. So hopefully you enjoyed watching it. Let me know what you think down below. And anyway, if you enjoyed it, then give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy reading.